Hey guys, welcome to Vesna TV. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really super excited about today's video. So before we get started, I want to kind of go over what it's going to be about. So what we're doing today is a whole bunch of Dollar Tree DIYs where I'm using all wood decor products. So I'm really excited about this because I love their wood stuff. I'm even more excited because today I get to use this Waterslide decal paper. So if you guys have not checked it out, it's from Hiipoo. Hiipoo was really kind and they sent these out to me, a package of them, and I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am that I got to use them because they are amazing. They're a game changer for all sorts of decor things, and like they're awesome. And all you need is an inkjet printer, which most of us have. So I'm really excited that I get to use that. And thank you so much for Hiipoo for sending them out. And my excitement goes to you as well because we get a coupon. So I actually will post the coupon in my description below. You get 30% off if you use my little coupon code off of the paper. So I really hope you give it a try. So let's get going. So here are the wood pieces that I've chosen to work with. I will add one more Dollar Tree item to the little board, and I will also add some embellishments. So I'm starting today's episode off with this pumpkin, and you can pick these up every year. It doesn't have to have the thankful and blessed sign. That's just the one that I chose just because I love the shape of it, and I also love the little metal leaf that it comes with, and I like to use them for other things, so I'm keeping that one for sure. So I just take everything off really gently, and I'm actually using the back side because it's a little bit easier than to use this side. I will probably eventually make this a double-sided piece, as I usually do with a lot of my little wood pieces from the Dollar Tree, but for today I'm just using this side and taking everything off and filling these little holes with some putty that I got at Home Depot. The putty dried and I sanded it down, I just used this antique white paint from the Dollar Tree. It's just their kind of like beigey white paint that they have, acrylic paint. I'm not sure if it's called differently where you are at, but this is what it's called here. And I'm just painting it all out so that it covers it. And I thought I was going to do two coats, but I wound up doing one because I like how the brown shows through. It gives it a really vintage look. So once it's nice and dry and you get it to the color that you wanted to, if you wanted a completely creamy pumpkin without the brown showing through, do two coats and it'll be perfect. But I really like everything to be vintage and rustic looking, so this was perfect. And for this pumpkin, I chose this hand-picked Farm Fresh pumpkins sign to put on there, and I found this printable online for free. I will link where I got it from, so you guys, if you like it, you can use it yourself as well. And I've printed it on the Hiipoo Waterslide decal paper. Now you have to make sure when you're loading it into your inkjet printer that you are putting it shiny side up so that it prints on the shiny side. So it depends on how you have to load it into your printer. I would just do a test run and maybe like do a little mark so that way you know which side is the bottom or top, so that you're not wasting this paper once you buy it. So it is not waterproof, so you do have to seal it, and what I've used to seal it is just a Rust-Oleum clear spray. And you want to spray it 3 times and give 10 minutes in between each spray for it to dry. The instructions do come in the pack as well, but I found that this worked really well. Gave myself 10 minutes in between each spray and it protected it completely so nothing leaked. And then you submerge it into water. I just have an aluminum pan that I used, and I put the paper in there, and you want to do that for about 30 to 60 seconds. I did it for about 60 seconds. I did it a little bit longer. And then what you do is you take it out and then you want to wet the piece that you're putting it on. You want to kind of wet it a little bit. So I just use my fingers for that. And then you put the piece on there, you slide it gently off with your fingers like so, just really gently so it doesn't wrinkle. It is very forgiving, so even if you make a mistake, if you're really gentle, you can fix it. I tend to make mistakes, so I was able to fix where I made the mistakes. And then you just gently slide it out so that way it stays as straight as possible. And then you want to take a paper towel and just go from the center and out with the paper towel and just to get rid of the excess water, and it'll kind of stick it down a little bit better too. And that's all there is to it. Look at that. So as you can see, this decal paper is super easy to use. The only thing that I would give you some pointers on is if you're wanting to put it on something darker, you want to make sure it's contrasting. The clear stuff doesn't really work on darker bases, so you want to do a lighter base for the clear stuff, and if you buy the white decal paper, then you want to do you can do a darker base, but be mindful of when you're cutting it out because you will see the white. So just something to keep in mind. You could use your Cricut for that if you have it, but if you're using the clear stuff, which is what I'm using, just make sure that your background is white or light, and the colors of your decal, like the picture that you've chosen, are contrasting and really rich. Otherwise, if they're not, it won't show off as well, and I'll kind of show you in my next one what I mean by that. And then what I'm doing here, I'm just adding a little bit of orange and a little bit of black, and then I'm going to smudge it with a baby wipe. I love using this technique for painting. It just makes everything blend really well together. And again, it makes everything really aged looking and antique looking, which I love. So that's what I'm doing here. And I just use any old baby wipe, not a specific brand or anything like that. It doesn't have to be super wet. And there you go. That's all there is to that. And then at the top, I was playing around with the idea of putting a bow or something else, but I decided to go with green burlap for the top. So here it is completed. First DIY, I am using these crates. I don't know if you guys have used these crates. They have them, but they're kind of like a hit and miss at the Dollar Tree. They'll have a ton of them, then they'll disappear for months, and then they'll come back. But these are amazing to do all sorts of different DIYs with. Today I'm making a wagon out of this one. I have made those red trucks and galvanized trucks out of these. I've done them for all sorts of things. They are super versatile, and today it'll be a wagon with like a vintage wagon with a vintage decal on there. So let's get going. So I did tell you guys that I really like to make things vintage looking. So I am using the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java to just paint over, or I guess stain this crate. And then I will paint over it with some white as well. I did make sure that I covered the inside and outside of the crate in the decorative glaze, and then same with the paint. I used the same antique paint. I think it's called warm white. I think I'm calling it antique white, but it's warm white paint from the Dollar Tree. And I just went over it over the whole crate. Again, I wasn't worried about full coverage because I wanted that brown peeking through. I wanted that antique rustic look. So I did tell you I was making a wagon, and the wagon needs wheels. So I'm using this wood piece from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be cutting little wheels out of it. And I wound up using my little new miter saw that I got. I purchased those mini miter saws from Amazon. I'm so excited about it. And I didn't record myself doing it because it was the first time doing it. So I just wanted to make sure I did a good job. But I did wind up cutting this piece with that miter saw. It took a few turns because it's a really mini miter saw, and it did a great job. You could use miter shears. My hand isn't strong enough yet to use those because you have to kind of hold with both hands. So I opted for that little saw because I can do it with one hand. But you could use that, or you could use an X-Acto knife. Like, you don't need that miter saw. I just love that little thing. So I use that. And then I hot glued them to the wagon. I hot glued them on, like, to be even with the bottom. You could put it down a little bit. I just decided I wanted to do it this way for this particular wagon. Totally up to you aesthetically how you want to do it. And then for the handle for the wagon, I just used a garden pick that I got from Dollarama. It essentially looks like a paint stir stick with like a sharp, like with a point at the end. So I used that for the handle, and I just hot glued it to the crate so it looks like it's a wagon with a handle, and I painted it in black. Now, if you don't want to use a garden pick or don't have it, or don't have a paint stir stick, you can always do rope. So I actually created this little decal for the wagon. And what happened was, for some reason, on my picture that I was going to print, it showed black ink, but then when it printed, it kind of did an outline of it. But I decided to keep it anyway. But remember how I said you want the colors to be really bold? Um, that the little pumpkins 5 cents doesn't show as well as I would like it to because it's just an outline with white. It it just needed to be a little bit darker, but it still works because it just adds to the rustic feel of this wagon. So again, you just want to make sure you're cutting it fairly close to the edge of the design so that way not so much of your transfer the decal paper shows. And then you pop it into the water and you leave it for 60 seconds, take it out, and then slide it onto your design. So here it is completed. Love the way it turned out. I put some hay bales in there and some of these cloth pumpkins from Dollar Tree. So the next project is this paddle or mini cutting board wood decor piece from the Dollar Tree. I did get it in the craft section, so it is some sort of decorative item, not a purposeful item. So, I mean, not that decorative items aren't purposeful, but not something for the kitchen is what I mean. So what I'm doing is using that same white paint and just painting over top of it with that paint. And then I will be going over top of that paint with some white paint. I just didn't want it to be super, super white, but this was a little bit too yellow. So I wanted it kind of like a mixture. But of course I decided it was too yellow after I put the jute rope around it. So I'm just I'm wrapping some jute rope around the top of the handle. And it just, again, continues with that rustic theme. So once all of that is dry, I use another decal. Now this one is a little bit different. This one is very, very pale and faint, but I just love the way it turned out. You'll see once it dries, the Hello Pumpkin shows a little bit more, but I really love it because again, it looks aged and rustic and just fits in with this theme that I'm going for. So once I get the decal on there, remembering to put the water underneath. So remember you need to put enough underneath so that it sticks properly. Once it's all dry, I then just dry brush a little bit of orange paint onto here. And this orange paint, which I will show you in the next clip, is from Solo in the next project. Sorry, is paint from Solo Wood Flowers, and it's just their buttercream orange paint. And here it is completed. Okay, who does not love these squares? So they are 6 in a pack for $1.25. Here in Canada, everything is $1.25, and they have raised the prices at Dollar Tree to $1.50, which I mean isn't a big deal, but when you're buying tons of stuff, it does add up. So that kind of stinks, but it is what it is. And so anyway, there are these cute little squares that come in a 6-pack, and you can make all sorts of awesome things with them. I've made signs for the tier trays. I've made little raised tables. I've made little shadow boxes. I've made coasters, and that's actually what I'm doing today, is making coasters. So I'm gonna show you what I did with these. But if you don't want to use them as coasters, you can totally use them in a tier tray, because they're like the perfect little size for tier trays. Okay, so let's get going. So I had the same idea for these coasters as I did for the little wagon, where I wanted the dark at the bottom and then light over top. So I'm going to go ahead and use that same decorative glaze in Java from Rust-Oleum and apply it to the coasters, and then I'll apply some white paint. So I'm using gloves because it stains your fingers quite a bit, so and it's kind of hard to get it off. So I'm using gloves. I've been really careful about using them when I do these stains, because I wind up having, like black on my hands and it looks like they're dirty. I can't get it off. So just a little tip: if you have these gloves, any kind of gloves that you can use them when you're using this glaze. So for the coasters, I decided to use 4 different printables for these, and they're all fall themed, just every one is slightly different from the other, but they all have kind of that orangey, brown, amber tones to them that you see in the fall, and I really like those colors for the fall. I love the blues and the greens as well, but I also just like these. To me, are like more traditional fall colors. So again, you want to wet everything and just slide it on, and then wipe it off with your finger and with a paper towel. Just make sure you're going from the center and out. Sometimes some of them I forgot about it and I kind of just went all over. But always make sure you're going from the center and out. And I do this with all 4. And again, I will link those printables in my description, so make sure you check them out if you really like them. So after all the decals dried, I applied that buttercream orange color to the edges, just so that I could give it a little bit more of that antique look and just tie in the orange. And again, I'm just dry brushing, so I'm just putting a little bit of paint on the brush and then drying it off on a paper towel and then applying it to the coasters. This is pretty sealed because of that spray that I applied to the water decal, but I will seal these with Mod Podge as well, because I will be using them as coasters. And here they are completed. So last but certainly not least is this little picture frame or little sign, whatever you want to call it. It's from the Dollar Tree. It has this little chalkboard looking thing in the middle, which actually I wound up painting out white, and then the frame of it I did in this warm white from Dollar Tree that I've been using for the entire episode. And I also wound up going over top of the frame with some black and white paint, and it just gave it a little bit of a more rustic and antique feel. Again, I wanted the warm white, but then I didn't like the way it looked on the wood. It looked a little bit yellow, so I added more color to it. And I also did a base for this. Now this is the only non-wood thing from the Dollar Tree that I used in creating my DIYs, and it was the candle base, the glass candle base, but unfortunately I've lost the footage of me spray painting it, but I spray painted the glass candle holder with a black spray paint. I actually got this spray paint at Home Depot. It was $5, so it was just their quick spray paint. I don't know if it's just a Home Depot brand or something, but I've never seen it there before. But I thought I'd try it, and it's pretty good. And I just wound up using hot glue to attach the frame to the base of the candle. I once again spray painted the decals so that I could use them for this, and for this one, I use the Grateful, Thankful, Blessed. Now, you see other designs on there. I just wanted to fill the page. I found that I wasted the other pages, so I didn't want to waste them this time. So I filled it up with other designs that I'm going to use for future projects. And then that way it was nice and full. And again, I cut it as close as I could to the edge and then soaked it and applied it to the frame. And like I said, I'm not sure why, but for some reason, some of the footage got lost. Something had happened with my phone where it just stopped recording and then it wasn't recording sound. It was just being really weird. It just needed to be restarted, but I didn't realize that until after. So anyway, I wound up, even once I put the base and the frame together, I wound up not liking the way they looked with it just being black. So I went over the black with some Deco Art white chalk paint and that warm white acrylic paint, and just to give it a little bit more of a rustic look and not such a black look. And then, as I said, I went over the frame with those same colors as well. And then I just applied the decal, and that's all there was to this. And here it is completed. So here are all of them together. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Hiipoo for sending those decals over. They were amazing to work with. They are becoming one of my favorite things to work with. And make sure you check out in the description for the coupon code, which I will have in there, and also have a link to on how you can where you can purchase these. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. It really helps my channel out, especially if you liked it. So subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see when I post new videos. Thank you so much. Have a great day and stay safe.